Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. The hits keep on coming for Purdue after a 52-6 loss at Wisconsin adds to the disappointment that's developed over the last month. I'll break down the abomination today before looking at how another embarrassment impacts the big picture of Purdue football. And, of course, as always, I will answer your questions. Thanks to those of you who sent those in. You can follow the show on Twitter, at BoilersBeyond. Come join the conversation there because there is no lack of subject material to talk about on the Twitter sphere. You can also send in questions there on Twitter, at BoilersBeyond, or you can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. We'll be coming at you every single week through the end of basketball season in March or April. Wisconsin 52, Purdue 6. The Badgers' 18th straight win over the Boilermakers. This one comes by the largest margin of them all. Wisconsin's 46-point win bested a 62-17 result that was previously the top margin during this 2-decade-long losing streak for Purdue. And this was not one of the better Wisconsin teams that Purdue has faced, to put it mildly. Purdue hung in there early in this game, but Wisconsin's last drive of the first half was a sign of things to come. Purdue never got another stop on defense from that point. Purdue had cut it to 14-6. Purdue had almost found the end zone on both of those field goal drives. You felt like Purdue was starting to maybe put something together in this game, but Wisconsin goes down and scores right before the half. Wisconsin almost tried not to score. There was some questionable clock management there, but Wisconsin finds a way to get in, and then, really it was 14-6 all the way to like 49-6 just at the snap of the finger. It happened so fast, and it just unraveled so quickly. I guess I'll start on the offensive side of the ball, where the news of the week was that Jason Simmons took over the play calling. Graham Harrell was dismissed a week ago today. And look, give Simmons some credit in the sense that he wasn't afraid to try anything. You saw a lot of different looks from Purdue on offense early on. Elijah Jackson got on the field early. You saw more 12 personnel than we were used to. Ben Furtney came on the field as kind of that H-back. Extra linemen, which we saw some last week, but we saw Purdue go with extra linemen. Purdue tried a lot. You saw Purdue try to get the ball out quick in the quick passing game that didn't have as much success as Purdue had hoped. It got inside the 5-yard line twice in the first half. It wasn't able to get in the end zone. And you can question the play calling at that point, which is fine. Purdue went with some I formation. Purdue brought Ryan Brown in for a speed option. Purdue tried a lot of different things, none of which were tremendously successful. But, again, I give Jason Simmons some credit for leaving it all out there and not leaving any stone unturned. He gave it a shot. It's a limited offense and what it can do. That much is very clear. But, you looked at this thing late in the first half and you kind of said, okay, it's 14-6 Wisconsin. 7 of those 14 came off of a muffed punt return by Dylan Thieneman. You could feel like Purdue was in that thing. The muffed punt return, too, lingered so badly because it was so avoidable. After Dylan Thieneman struggled to catch the first punt that he recovered, I don't know why he's trying to return the second one. I know revisionist history is easy. I'm not the one back there trying to make a play, but he didn't look comfortable at all. As you just watched him try to catch the ball, you could see this happening, and that hurt. But, Wisconsin never looked back once it scored at the end of the first half. It was over before we knew it. Wisconsin put up 589 yards of offense on Purdue's defense. Just got absolutely picked apart by a very average quarterback in Wisconsin's Braden Locke. And I don't mean to, be critical of Locke because he had a career day. But this is a guy who came in as a 50% career passer with a career best of 243 yards passing. He hit 20 of 31, 66% thereabouts, 359 yards and 3 touchdowns on Purdue. And this comes after, at one point he was like 9 for 18. And in the second half, he just tore Purdue apart. And that's the alarming part about this. We knew that the offense had struggles. We knew it was going to be limited. The path to Purdue winning this game was for it to be low scoring and for Wisconsin to make mistakes. The offensive line for Purdue, limited. The wide receiving core for Purdue, limited. How many times in this game was Hudson Card buying extra time and no one was open downfield? That's the troubling part of this. It's not like when you watch this stuff, there are guys open downfield that Card is missing. No one's getting open. The offensive line, when it protects him well enough, no one's open downfield. So we knew the offense was going to be a problem, but the defense had shown some marginal growth last week. As I said on the midweek podcast, I wasn't, doing cartwheels over what I saw from Purdue against Nebraska on defense, but it was marginal improvement. And all of that got washed away in the second half of this game when, I don't want to say that Purdue quit because that's a very damning statement and it's very, it's accusatory. You don't really have true evidence to back it up, but boy, it didn't look like Purdue's defense was eager to compete once this one was out of reach. Purdue missed 19 tackles in this game per Pro Football Focus. That's horrible. 19 missed tackles. Most of them coming by the secondary, too. This is just, it's problem after problem. To not get a single stop from the time it's 14-6 until Wisconsin ran out the clock, my goodness. The secondary is supposed to be the improved part of this defense. It was a rough start for Nyland Green. Through 2 games, he's had a really rough start to this. Purdue went zone at times, so Purdue is trying to make adjustments there. But when Purdue's in man, it's not working. When Purdue's in zone, it's just getting picked apart. Some of the holes, Wisconsin had 2 touchdown passes of 50-plus yards. The first one, I haven't rewatched the game yet. I will later today or tomorrow. The first one, I couldn't tell if Nyland Green was either supposed to be in zone or if he just got beat. But either way, wide open. And then the second one is just a hole in the zone, and then Purdue's pursuit is unable to make a tackle. After the game, Ryan Walters got asked if it was the scheme or the personnel causing the problems, and he was more or less speechless. Said they got to tweak things to make it work, but just a really, really poor all-around performance in this game. You can sit here and nitpick some things. You can sit here and say maybe Purdue should have been aggressive and gone for those touchdowns when it was inside the 5-yard line, but all in all, I don't know. Purdue just gets blown out so bad in this that it's hard to criticize the minor things because the big things were just so non-competitively bad. Wisconsin was not great against Western Michigan or South Dakota. It lost comfortably to Alabama and USC. This is one of the worst Wisconsin teams we've seen during the last 21 years. Now, that's relative because Wisconsin's been very good for that part of this. But Purdue wasn't good enough to overcome a very simple mistake like Dylan Thieneman's fumble. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. And when that happened, Purdue's margin for error was gone. Purdue just got completely outclassed. How different is this game if Purdue doesn't fumble that and Wisconsin doesn't score? I don't know. It's not going to win. But it felt like a really, rough time after Purdue's football admin Twitter account was bragging about having the best special teams in the country. The hits just keep on coming here. I can't. It's almost insane to think. It's October 6th. On September 13th, Purdue fans were going to bed. It is a touchdown underdog against Notre Dame. Really excited about what could happen in Ross-Ade, hoping for one of those Ross-Ade magic days. And now, just 3+ weeks later, it is at as bad of a spot as I can remember Purdue football being. And yeah, that includes the Darrell Hazel years. Another hit came before the game when Markevious Brown was announced to no longer be with the team. I have no clue what's going on there. Very vague in terms of announcements. Who knows if we'll ever get details, but that's a significant loss for Purdue. He was the best corner on the team early on this season. Botros Alessandro played in his place. Teron Grant played a little bit. It's not those guys' fault, but it doesn't help to have backups out there. In the big picture, I think 11 minutes of talk is enough about this game. This just gets worse and worse every week. You hoped last week was kind of the bottoming out and that firing the coordinator would help create a spark. You'd maybe get that one game bump and find the end zone a few times on offense. And it wasn't by lack of effort, but it didn't happen. Purdue is just getting boat raced in these games. And that's a very damning reflection of the coaching staff. In the last 4 games, Purdue is being outscored 104-31 in the second half. In those 4 games, Purdue has not scored in the first quarter. This is bad. This is really, really bad. You're looking at a team that doesn't come out and threaten you at all based off what, you're expecting. The first quarter is kind of game script, the script stuff that you have ready, which I don't know how much of that Purdue does. I don't think Graham Harrell did a ton of that. And it's what you're trying to establish in the game. And clearly opponents are ready for whatever Purdue's trying to establish. And then in the second half, once you make those proverbial adjustments, teams are adjusting very well to what Purdue's doing. And Purdue's not adjusting as well to what the opposing defenses are doing. And adjustments are hard to talk about because these guys know, the meticulous points of football far better than I do. But the numbers are what they are. And the reality is that, this is looking like possibly the worst team in the Power 4. That's a big thing to say. But this was supposed to be the easier part of the schedule. Look at this. Oregon State's nothing special. They went to double overtime with Colorado State yesterday. That's not a good Colorado State team. Did Oregon State win that game? I don't know. I gave up. Oregon State wins in double overtime. Nebraska, 14-7 win over Rutgers. Nebraska's not great. Wisconsin's not great. We'll see what happens the rest of the season, but these are not great teams that have just thoroughly waxed Purdue. Yet, here we are. You still have to play Oregon. You still have to play Ohio State. You still have to play Penn State. Maybe what makes matters the absolute worst of all of this, you still have to play Indiana, who is 6-0, is bowl eligible, and it's not like you should evaluate your entire program based off of what's happening in Bloomington, but my goodness, it doesn't help when you look down there and things are going really well at your biggest rival, and then you look in your backyard and it's not going well. If you're trying to find support of Ryan Walters out there, it's pretty difficult to find right now. It's remarkable that we're here for a coach 17 games into his Purdue tenure, but here we are. I don't think there's any reason for Purdue to really look at making a move during the season. But if this continues, Purdue will have a very real decision to make when the sun rises on the Sunday after the Old Oak and Bucket game. That's looking like it'll be a laugher. Indiana may cross the 50-point mark on Purdue like it's 2013 all over again. Kurt Cignetti's not going to be quiet about it. In previous eras of this sport, you would be foolish to consider firing a coach after 2 years. It's a different era, though. One where recruiting looks a lot different because so much of it comes out of the transfer portal. You look at the fan buy-in here, just seems to be at an all-time low. I mean, I'm not kidding. I look through the message boards and I look through Twitter, and you don't see people defending this. You don't see people advocating for more time. That is insane. I mean, we're not even halfway through the second year, and the feeling among the fan base is almost unanimously it's not going to work. That doesn't happen. Like that's a rarity. You don't see that much. It's not as much what's the cost of making the move now. The buyout's about $9.3 million. Big Ten money, 2024. All right. I mean, I know you've got to do revenue sharing next year, maybe see how the House settlement goes, but what's the cost of not? What do the stands at Ross-Ade Stadium look like next fall if you run it back? How do you fundraise for name, image, and likeness efforts to improve this roster out of the transfer portal? You know, Purdue could win a couple more games this year and make this conversation seem all for naught. But for right now, this is where we stand. And if you're Purdue, this is beyond worst case scenario. No one in their right mind saw this coming. But at about 8:30 a.m. on October 6th, this is looking like a really lost season, and one that Purdue's going to have some massive, massive decisions to make here at the end of this year. Want to get into some Q&A here. What do you think of the concepts from Jason Simmons in his first game? Did this give you any hope for offensive improvement as he grows into the role the rest of the year? I think it was fine. I think he emptied the bag. I think he left it all out there. I think Purdue's very limited. I think you have to find things that work. I suspect you're going to see more of that quick passing stuff. I suspect you're going to see Purdue try to run the ball more because Purdue did run the ball okay. I think that's what you're going to see more of, but 216 yards of total offense. I mean, this offense is just not good. And, you know, I know there was a lot of criticism about Graham Harrell, but look, the problem's always bigger than just the coordinator. I can very rarely count the number of times where the coordinator is the only problem. What has gone wrong? Is it the coaching, game plans, lack of talent, lack of high-level recruiting? Something's not working. What's your take on the root cause? Well, look, something like high-level recruiting is always going to be relative at a place like Purdue. I mean, you're not going to stockpile top 10 classes with 4- and 5-star recruits. Purdue's not that type of program. It never has been. It's not going to be. It's not fair to expect that. Now, Purdue did not recruit at a high level late in Jeff Brom's tenure, and that doesn't help. I don't love sitting here screaming about coaching and game planning because, as I said, these guys are more qualified to come out and do this than I am. But whatever is being done right now simply isn't working. Is that a problem with game prep in your game planning? Is it a problem with the weekly routine? Is it just in-game decision-making that's bad? All of the above? I don't know. The talent on this roster is what it is. The portal additions don't look to be anything special, but I don't know that the talent is just so far off that you should be this bad. It's a mix in my book, and that's the problem, is it's not just one root cause. If we were to fire Walters, we will find another coach that will come here. Players leave because of the coaching change, and we have to rebuild 2 years after we just did, and it becomes a vicious cycle. Am I wrong? I mean, I think the key is to backfill what you have right now. Because sure, I mean, if you move on from Ryan Walters, yeah, you can lose guys in the portal, but this is pretty blunt. How many guys are irreplaceable on this roster? I don't know that there are many. If there are any, you are what you are. I don't know that keeping the roster intact is all that important right now. You'd like to find a coach who can bring some players with him or has real pull. I mean, you can't expect the next coach to come in and go 9-3 in year one, but you can expect better than this. Right now, you're just getting embarrassed. And it's like I said before the season, the schedule Purdue played was very difficult. And improvement might be relative from year one to year two. This is what I referred to when it was how you lose. If you're getting plastered every week, then it's a lot different than if you're losing these games close. And right now, not to be Mr. Vegas, but Purdue hasn't covered the spread in these last 4 weeks. It's not been close. I think the Notre Dame game closed at like 7, and you lose by 59. It was like a 2-point spread at Oregon State at closing. You lose by 17. Nebraska was around 10. You lose by 17. And this one was a 14-point spread, and you lose by 46. I mean, you were just getting pummeled out there. And that's the thing you can't have in your next coach. You're going to lose early on. But can you be competitive, and can you show signs of life that this program doesn't have right now? It seems like Walters was light on the team during spring and fall camp, and it's showing. We can't tackle. The lines are getting manhandled like it's nothing. Is this primarily a coaching problem? As far as it goes, what you do during spring and fall camp, I don't know. I mean, you can't be as physical as you used to be. You just can't. That's not an option. There are rules against it to a degree. I mean, you can't do 2-a-days. You have the acclimation period in the fall. It's not like there's media access to see what's going on the daily. I think the lines are concerning because this was supposed to be a greatly improved offensive line. My question coming in was the defensive line, and you're getting your answers after Wisconsin ran for 228 yards at over 5.5 yards per carry. That's a problem. I think it's, I don't know if it's a coaching thing as much as it is a personnel thing here, but then you look at who brought in the personnel, because most of these guys came in under Ryan Walters. Would you entertain making a hire now so they can recruit during the season? How much of this debacle is on Babinski? Was it the wrong hire? Does he not have the resources to succeed? I mean, first off, no, I would not make a hire during the season, because then you'd be limiting yourself to guys who don't have jobs right now. And that's a very narrow applicant pool. I don't know. I don't know about that. And you certainly wouldn't bring in a new coach and make him coach this. That you don't do that. How much of this debacle is on Mike Babinski? Well, I mean, he made the hire. So a fair amount. I mean, you always have to look back on that. I never felt that this was a hire Purdue made like as a financial resources thing. I know the classic narrative that Purdue doesn't want to spend like a big boy. I never felt that Purdue was trying to go cheap by hiring Ryan Walters. I think Purdue was really convicted that he was the right guy. And so far what we've seen through 17 games, looks like it might have been the wrong bet. Now, again, I would give Ryan Walters the rest of the year. I would give him every chance to figure this out. But, I mean, you're staring down the barrel of 1-11 or 2-10. I mean, as I'm recording this, I see a text come through from a buddy that, on ESPN's FPI, Purdue is 8 points worse than the next team in the Big Ten. Purdue's 114th in the FBS. That would put Purdue at 8th place in the MAC. Now, I'm not a big believer in ESPN's FPI, but what on earth? You're worse than Charlotte on this thing. Than Charlotte, who's been one of the worst teams in the FBS for some time now. I mean, this is a catastrophe. This is just a mess, and I don't enjoy sitting here and saying some of that. It comes across as very harsh, but it is what it is at this point, guys. This is looking like a lost season. We'll see what happens. Purdue has 2 more games before the bye week, and then when we get there, we'll see what this team looks like. but Purdue's probably not going to be favored again this season. I'm starting to think that Northwestern's going to be favored to beat Purdue, and this is just looking like a season that has gone out the window and will probably go down is one of the more disappointing in Purdue history. That's all I have for today. Thank you for spending your time with me. I'm sorry there's not more positive to talk about, but we're going to talk about what happens, whether it's good or bad. I'll be back middle of the week to answer more questions, to talk a little bit about Purdue going to Illinois, a game that is not looking particularly promising at this point, but we'll see how it goes. Follow me on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, everyone, take care.